You're watching CHCO-TV's gavel-to-gavel coverage of the October 27th, 2025 Special Council meeting for the town of St. Andrews. I'm Florence Mitchell. Today's meeting begins with a presentation by Steve Saunders of Katie's Cove Incorporated, providing an update and a request for Katie's Cove. May Doyle of the St. Andrews Pickleball Association will present to Council requesting better facilities for outdoor pickleball. Under Bylaws and Motions, Council will review version 2 of the 2026 budget. Additionally, Council will move to request the view of the Planning Advisory Committee on the draft Municipal Plan MP25. Now let's join Council in the W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex Council Chambers in St. Andrews.
Welcome everyone. We're going to call to order the special council meeting for the town of St. Andrews, Monday, October 27th in council chambers at 7:09 p.m. The recording of attendance, I'll note all councillors are present with the exception of Councillor Blanchard, who is going to be joining us shortly online. I will also note that we are on the unceded territory of the Beskotomagati Nation. And for the agenda tonight, we're going to have a small amendment. We have a short closed session that we're going to bump up right to the start, just to keep things moving while we're working out the technical difficulties with the Zoom links. So if I could have a motion for that amendment, to amend the agenda to move closed session up. Councillor Heenan, seconded by Councillor Harland. All those in favor? Aye. Passed. All right, and now an approval of the agenda as is. Look for a mover. Councillor Gumichel, seconded by Councillor Bennett. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Disclosure of conflict of interest? Seeing none. All right, so at this point, we are going to move to a closed session. Do we have the clause for that? So we're going to move to closed session under Local Governance Act Section 68 at 7:11 p.m. Can I have a mover for that, please? Councillor Heenan. Seconder, Councillor Harland. All those in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. So, yeah, for the audience, you guys can all stay here. We are going to just excuse ourselves for a few minutes, and then we'll be right back. Hopefully have everybody online, and we'll get right to the presentations. Okay, Council, could I have a motion to come out of closed session at 7:26 p.m.? Councillor Heenan, seconded by Councillor Harland. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. We are out of closed session. Okay. Sorry about the short delay, everyone. My apologies for that. But we will move ahead with the presentations at this point. So our first presentation is Steve Saunders with Katie's Cove Inc. If I could ask you to come up to the podium there, Mr. Saunders.
Yes, please. Yes. Here we are. All right. Well, good evening, Your Worship, or Assistant Worship.
Councillor,
and
Captain, whatever you want to call me.
Council members, and thank you, Mr. Spear, for inviting me to present our group's request for funding this evening, and welcome Mr. McKinnon to your new post as human lightning rod. Tonight, I am submitting a request for a grant of $20,000 from the town. I have a few slides here that will give a little background on what Katie's Cove Incorporated is all about and what we intend to do with this grant. Next slide, please. As you know, KCI, or Katie's Cove Incorporated, is a nonprofit corporation that was spun off the St. Andrews Kiwanis Club in 2018. Our board comprises a diverse group of professionals, including an architect, an attorney, healthcare professionals, a couple of engineers, the town's recreational director, and we even have our own PR and multimedia specialist. Upon our incorporation, we negotiated a 20-year lease of the waterfront property we're using with the then Algonquin owners that was carried over 2 years ago to Invest, the current owners. The lease ends in 2039. May seem like a long way off, but it will be here before you know it. By then, many things will have changed, but I predict both curling and yacht clubs will continue to be chaired by Roger McNabb. Next slide, please. We had a great year at Katie's Cove this year. That was helped out a lot by unprecedented weather. But in terms of usage of the place, we hired 2 employees, 1 student and 1 senior. And our season kickoff barbecue was very well attended. Members Vicky Hogarth and Merv Hanselpacher did much of the heavy lifting in pulling together resources for the town, pulling together resources from the town and Cook's Aquaculture, among others. So thanks go out to them and town staff for their efforts for this big event. And so no, in addition to regular activities like volleyball and movie night, Merv organized a cardboard boat race that was a big hit. Now, in cardboard boat racing, the failures elicit just as much cheering and support as the successes. In fact, maybe bigger cheers and more support. And the contenders I talked with were already planning next year's entry. They're going to saturate the cardboard with epoxy or something like that. In September, the Dragon Boat Club hosted yet another successful regatta, and this one was bigger than ever. There were teams from as far away as Winnipeg, and during this event, the Dragon Boat Club raised over $20,000 for mental wellness. And the last item on that slide there, discussion between representatives from Invest and the owners of the new owners of the Algonquin and the town concerning the transfer of Cove property are still ongoing. Now, I'm not sure if this is something that can be discussed in public, but if there's time after I finish my presentation, it would be interesting to know where these negotiations stand. But we can talk to that about that issue when we get to it. Next slide, please. All right, so in 2025, we had town support as similar to previous years, and this has been critical and much appreciated. You can see from this list that weekly input from town staff rivals that it would put into its own park properties. Also, we have an open line of communication with these guys who provide invaluable input regarding planning and logistics. Next slide. Okay, all right, so here are the financial challenges that we're up against. We have what we would call have-tos, and we have want-tos. Now, our have-tos are things like maintenance of the buildings, carrying appropriate insurance coverage, and without these, we'd be left with the option of just putting a padlock on the place. And our want-to list is probably a pretty long one. It includes employing more staff, possibly lifeguards or swimming instructors, and we are still keen on taking a proactive approach to improving the water quality. This year, we got fewer complaints on water quality. Some of that had to do with the staff being able to open the gates on a monthly basis when we had spring tides. Another one may have been the weather. There's a possibility that some of the algae buildup that we've seen in the past is a result of stormwater runoff that's coming into the cove. No storms, so no stormwater runoff. Next slide. Here's a rundown of our forecast costs for 2026. And you can see there that the total of these comes to $28,800. In this list, property maintenance and staff at this stage are projections. However, the entries, the other entries like insurance and cleaning contract are hard numbers that are based on 2025 expenses. Okay, next slide. We can come back to this one later if you want. So this is a summation of our request for assistance. We'd like to continue with in-kind support, which was garbage, lawn mowing, operation of the gates, plus this grant I'm asking for tonight of $20,000. And that concludes my ask, and I can take questions if you've got them.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Saunders. We'll open it up to council for any questions. Councillor Harland?
Thank you, Mr. Saunders. By all accounts, Katie's Cove was extremely well received by both residents and visitors. I heard many, many positive comments about what a tremendous asset it was this year. So kudos to the committee for all the work that you've put into it. I appreciate that immensely. The question I have is regarding finances. So has the committee looked at other revenue streams? So the RSC, for example, has a grant writer. Have you had any discussions with him with respect to potential other grants that Katie's Cove may be eligible for? Has the committee considered other opportunities for generating revenue? Because $20,000 is a large sum of money for us. So I just want to understand what else has been discussed by the committee.
We have some ongoing grant applications out. Now, does Robert Rules of Order allow for the speaker to invite another speaker to come up to the podium?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, Vicki wrote a couple of our grant requests, and she may be able to answer your question more accurately than I can.
Okay, so we have the Kiwanis grant, which we will apply for again at the end of October this year. Last year, we were successful for the first time applying for the federal grant from New Horizons for seniors. So we asked $25,000. We actually got over $20,000 last year, so that allowed us to put in furniture, do some inclusivity-related items at the Cove to make it more accessible. So we've reapplied for that. I think it was fairly successful. I did apply too for the seed grant, the Canada Summer Jobs Grant for youth. At first, we didn't get it. We actually did hire the senior, Derek Washington, 58, so he's like barely in there. But so we were able to hire the beachkeeper, the senior beachkeeper with the New Horizons for Seniors grant, do some repairs with it, as well as put in chairs and things to make it a little bit more friendly for all ages. This year, we've reapplied for that. You do say what you want to do with the money, though, up front. So yeah. I feel like we will probably be successful. I don't really want to jinx it. We won't know for probably the new year about that one. But that would go towards, once again, employing a senior age beachkeeper. This year, we asked for a shaded area so we could build kind of like a pavilion-like thing with it. I know that Bill Teed, who's on our board as well, actually paid for some of the repairs to the building that the Dragon Boat Club mostly uses for the most part. Also, we are taking, I'm on Christmas committee too with Merv. Merv and I are on a bunch of committees together. So we are taking some of the stuff we are doing with the Christmas committee to bring that, like the Christmas cabins at Christmas Fest. So next year, hopefully, if we are successful, because what happened with this, sorry, I'm all over the place. The Canada Summer Jobs, we didn't get it at first, and then they wrote me halfway through July and said they had some cancellations, and then we were top of list. But it was near the end of July, and it's summer. So by the time we were able to hire someone, we ended up doing it anyway and just paying with our own money. So next year, hopefully, we get that sooner. But I had to decline the grant just because we couldn't meet within the time frame what you have to fulfill with a young person. And really, by like late July, they're pretty much hired. So I think that will be something that's successful next year. It's all pretty new, and given that we don't have charity status, we're still negotiating with the land, and the Algonquin complicates that if they are the owners because it's a big hotel. So
Right.
really that makes it tough. Though in the past, you'll note that with the washrooms, that was quite a big grant from the federal government for $100,000. So there's still some out there that we are eligible for. I have contacted the Service Commission to meet with their grant person. Haven't had a chance to sit down yet, so I don't know if they're just overwhelmed or what. But I plan on collaborating with them as much as possible. But honestly, I think like one of the blessings of AI for anyone listening is that you can find a lot more grants out there just by like seeing what's out there. It really does source them for you. So we apply for everything that we can. And honestly, sometimes one sticks, like that $100,000 one for the washroom. I don't know how that came through, but that was really a blessing. And so we'll continue to negotiate with the hotel, because if we can be the owners of the Cove or have it back in the town, that would change everything. It would change the game in terms of grants. So it does limit us what we're able to do right now. But so far, we've had a lot of success with where we've been able to find ones that we are eligible for.
Can I just?
Yep.
So, Vicky, sorry. The New Horizon grant,
Yeah.
that's generally $25,000?
It's up to $25,000. So to get our first time applying over $20,000, we were very, very happy
right.
about that.
And can I ask the Kiwanis, what generally do the Kiwanis provide in terms of 10?
10? It's been more.
Kiwanis provides grants for capital improvement, whereas like tonight, we approached the town for operating expenses. Some of these other grants that Vicky was talking about they're wanting to see nails pounded into boards and structures built. Whereas, like I said, the town ask is the operating expenses.
Thank you.
Oh yeah.
I forgot to add one thing. So with the ongoing relationship between the Christmas Committee and Katie's Cove, we're going to take the buildings from Christmas Fest, hopefully bring them up to the Cove for the summer, so the Dragon Boat Club can continue using the structure that's already there. And then next year, with the student and the beach keeper, we'll hope to operate a canteen again like you used to back in the day. I'm not sure that will generate a lot of money, but I think it will just make the beach more popular. So.
Okay.
Yes.
Councillor Weir?
Councilor Ware.
I see some forecast costs here, but that's really, you've selected certain expenses that you want the town to contribute towards, but it's certainly not a financial statement based on what I've heard.
No, it's not everything. I mean, there are other things that are lumped into some of these, like we have to treat for fire ants, for example. That catches up with us in a hurry if we miss a fire ant application.
I guess I'm just concerned we don't have a complete financial picture of the organization.
True. Do you need one in order to provide?
That's where I was going. Is that possible? Are we able to request that?
You can request whatever you want, I guess. It's a give and take scenario. I do know in our regular applications, for the assistance grants, it actually asks, and a lot of people, like Sunbury Shores, always sends us their annual statements as part of their application process, so it's not unprecedented.
I know I would appreciate receiving that because there are a lot of pieces. And to Councillor Weir's point, we're not able to see the full picture in terms of how where we fit in the operation of Katie's Cove, if we were to grant Katie's Cove money.
Yeah, it's a legitimate ask. Yeah,
And that's where I was headed, was, you know, pretty standard procedure to get the financial statements for a grant of this magnitude.
sure, yeah. We didn't provide them in previous years, but that's okay. We can start.
Okay. Any other councillors? Mr. Spear?
Yes, Steve, can you just kind of elaborate what your beach keepers do?
It depends on the day. They're keeping trash picked up, and a lot of times they're almost like PR. They're there to answer people's questions. As I said in our presentation, we're hoping to work towards having lifeguards and swimming instructors. Years ago, the swimming program at the Cove was sort of a feeder for lifeguards. I went through it when I was a teenager. I took swimming lessons, and ultimately I was old enough, when I was old enough, then I went through lifeguard training, and my sisters did the same thing. That ended, about a dozen years ago or so, but that's something that I think a lot of people would like to see come back.
I'm sorry, just for clarification, Councillor Neal, but your beach keepers at least have full-time hours then, so they're 35 to 40 hours a week instead of part-time? Okay, thank you.
Were they full-time this year? 40 hours. Okay, yes. Oh, yeah, one of the things they did too, if we didn't have so many complaints about the water, was because in the morning they were scooping up the floating algae, which is something that goes all the way back to the days when they were hotel employees. They had boats that they scooped it up with.
And don't they also sort of sweep up the ants after you've had a treatment, or rake the? Yeah, I think they might do that too.
They're keeping an eye on the ant
Yeah.
population.
So the only question I had, I guess, was just in regards to the ask from last year versus this year, the extra $5,000. Is that earmarked for something specific, or is that just a matter of rising costs?
Well, the ask was 20 last year too.
It was,
We
okay.
just anticipated that, ask for more than you anticipate.
Okay, fair enough.
We do the same thing with the Kiwanis too. We ask them for 20K. And
Okay.
Councillor Blanchard would like to speak.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Blanchard.
Yeah, thanks. Just a question then, on the summer staff, because I think I heard a summer student grant, and plus there was part of the money for the other grant you received went towards the beach keeper's salary. I'm just curious because built into our grant ask is $10,500 for summer staff. So I'm just wondering how we fit into that. Are you anticipating paying the two staff with the other grants as well? And if something didn't come through, I'm just trying to figure out how it all fits together. And again, Councillor Weir and to Councillor Harlan's point about having a better breakdown, I guess, in terms of the financials, that would be helpful. But I'm just trying to figure out the breakdown on summer staff and how it's paying for what, I guess, or are you anticipating, is this covering everything without those grants, or are you dependent on the other grants in order to have us come in at 10, a little over 10K to pay your summer staff?
this ask is anticipating that we don't get the grants that Vicky
You don't
was
get the
describing.
grants.
Right.
Okay,
and
so if
we
you
won't-
did get the grants, sorry, Mr. Saunders. So if you did get the grants, that grant money, I guess I'm assuming, would be earmarked for something else then? Is that what you're anticipating, or?
Right.
Or, yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? There's no further questions. Again, thank you very much, Mr. Saunders, for coming in and giving us the presentation. We'll be in touch. So at this moment now, we've got a second presentation by Ms. May Doyle with the St. Andrews Pickleball Association.
Hi. I'm Shelley Steers Morgan, and together with May, We coordinate the pickleball in town, the indoors at the NBCC during the winter, and outside. Currently, we've been on the tennis courts with temporary lines for a couple of seasons. Anyway, what we'd really like is permanent pickleball courts in the town, as St. Stephen and St. George do, so that we can play locally. We can get, it's a very popular sport with many people, a lot of tourists come to town, they're looking for places to play. And right now we don't have one. So we're looking, what we've done, I assume you all have read the letter that was submitted.
Yeah, we have.
I don't know whether you want me to go through the options or you just want to ask questions. What we've done is present some options, more or less in order of increasing cost, even though we don't have actual estimates. I mean, it's pretty clear by what we're suggesting. We're going from painting lines on the existing court all the way to brand-new courts. So
maybe it could be helpful if you just touched maybe on sort of the pros and cons of each one of those options for us?
Sure. So the first option was using the tennis courts. They're pretty underutilized. If we could take one of the 4 courts that are there and create 2 pickleball courts by putting permanent pickleball lines down. We would still leave the tennis lines down, but as many towns do, they're sort of dual purpose. So you've got tennis lines and pickleball lines on the same court. And we could have temporary nets, like roll-away nets, so that people could come and pull those out and play anytime they wanted, whether they're part of our group or people visiting at the hotel, whatever. So the disadvantage is really to the tennis club because their Masters tournament requires 4 courts that are lined only for tennis. So it would preclude them being able to hold the Masters for those 2 days in August.
Right.
The advantage is it's quick, easy, inexpensive, really, to do. The next option, option 2, was you can get like a modular court, which is just made up of interlocking tiles. They're already marked with the pickleball lines, and they just lie down over on the surface, any hard, cement, pavement, whatever, any surface. So they could be put on the same tennis court. It would mean that there would be no tennis lines on that one court, but they could be lifted up again. So the tennis lines are still underneath, and it could still be used for the Masters, but that court would not be able to be used for tennis anymore. So that was the second option, and those are roughly $15,000 a piece for a court of tiles. So the third option was try to take advantage of the fact that the existing courts we understand, are going to be resurfaced in the near future, is to use the parking lot. We could get 3 pickleball courts there with, by expanding maybe 10 feet towards the hotel, you could get 3 pickleball courts there. There's already some fencing there. It would take advantage of the fact that the resurfacing is going to happen with the pickleball court, or with the tennis courts rather. And we could sort of build on that.
So if I may, just with the tile
Yeah,
flooring that goes down, how is that secured to the existing court?
I think it just lies down on top.
It just lays down,
Yeah,
just the weight of
yeah,
it holds
yeah,
it there?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it does have spaces in it. So, it would be some dirt and water would drain through it and stuff like that. I mean, when they were picked up, you'd have to sweep the court undoubtedly before it could be used for tennis again.
Okay.
And then the fourth option is just build brand-new courts from scratch, which is, we don't really have an estimate from St. George people or St. Stephen people that is sort of comparing apples to apples, but it would be, I would guess, $150,000 to $250,000 to do them from scratch. And I think in previous discussions, the location would be the Harry Mallory Sports Field. So at least, it would be an area that we're not having to take trees and all that out of. There's pretty hard ground there already, but still, all the fencing, the pavement or the concrete, plus the surfacing, lines, fencing, in between the courts and stuff it still adds up. It's not inexpensive.
Okay.
So I guess we're looking for, because we would be raising money through grants and other things to try and fund or help fund this anyway. So we're kind of looking for some direction from the town as what would be a suitable option. Maybe there's another option that somebody would think of, I don't know. And then, we could focus our fundraising and whatnot
Right.
on that, because obviously these are all quite different options with different financial implications to
Sure.
each. Yeah.
So do you have fundraising ongoing at the moment, or
No.
again,
No.
kind of difficult
No,
to
it's-
do without knowing exactly where you're
Yeah,
going?
you
Okay.
can't really apply for a grant unless you know how much you're asking for.
Right.
And
Okay.
what it's going towards.
Okay. Council, any questions? Councilor Ireland?
Thank you for your presentation. So what's the season? Like what's the earliest you can start and what's the latest you can play?
We've been playing outside from the beginning of May until Thanksgiving.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, thanks. And how many, I know we've looked at numbers before, but how many pickleball players approximately?
Indoors right now, we've got probably 15 to 20 coming out regularly.
Okay.
In the summer, with no lines, like we're putting temporary lines down with string, not so many people.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, people are, the first year we did it, we had more people. Last year, not so much, because I think people are not too keen on
Right,
coming out and putting down string and then winding it all up
right.
after you play. And it certainly doesn't help with anybody who just wants to play, right? They have to wait for our scheduled times to do
Right.
it. So it's not really too user-friendly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Grimshaw?
Thank you for your presentation. Thanks for coming forward. Just wondering about the number of courts. You'd mentioned 3 courts would be ideal, or would 2 be suitable, or would you want 4?
Well, we would be happy with 2, with, certainly as a lesser expense. But if we were gonna go all in, 3 or 4 would be optimal.
Councilor Hegan?
Thank you, first off, for
Sure.
the information. And secondly, when you play at NBCC, how many courts are there on a Sunday?
There's 3.
There's 3.
There's 3. yeah.
And what is your prep work for NBCC? Do you have to put the lines down?
No, we use the badminton court lines.
You use the badminton.
So they're, except for the kitchen line,
Yeah.
it's the same size as a pickleball court. Yeah, so we just put up the poles, they've got badminton nets, and we just put them at the right height, and we're good to go.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Councilor Weir?
I'm just trying to get a handle on how many people are actually involved here. You said 15 to 20
Coming right now, yeah, during the winter. Yeah.
in the summer.
In the summer, we didn't, well, not this past summer, the summer before, we would have easily 2 or 3 courts, certainly 2, if not 3. And that's with, just the local people, really, with people from the hotel or wherever, the campground, dropping in now and then, if they found us.
So you think you can get the grove to
Absolutely.
supply 3-4 courts?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So right now, I think you had mentioned that in your letter, you feel like you guys have sort of lost players because of
Yeah.
the conditions that they're.
Yeah, for
You're using.
outside play, for sure, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions, council? If not, then again, thank you very much
Okay.
for coming forward with the presentation. We, as far as next steps, I'm assuming we'll probably bring this forward on a register and have a discussion at one of our next staff meetings. Again, we're entering budget time, so
Yeah. Okay, thanks very much for your time.
thank you.
Thank
Okay, council, we're moving on to the introduction, consideration, passing of bylaws and motions. I was just going to ask CAO Spear if we wanted to start with the second one first. So we will start with the Planning and Community Development Committee, which I believe is Councillor Harlan tonight.
Thank you. So this is reference number PCD 251005, and the subject is request view of PAC on draft municipal plan. And the background is as follows. Since 2024, council staff and staff of the Southwest Regional Service Commission have been going through the steps to create a new municipal plan for the whole amalgamated community. As we have a draft bylaw, we are required under the Community Planning Act to submit it to the Planning Advisory Committee for their input. So the motion is as follows, that the Council of the Town of St. Andrews requests the view of the Planning Advisory Committee on the draft municipal plan, MP-25, as per the Community Planning Act, Section 110, and I so move.
We have a seconder, Councillor Heenan. Any discussion, council? Councillor Grumashell.
Thank you, Worship. I didn't, or your deputy, well, thank you, Councillor Neer. I've spoken out a number of times with regard to the, our amalgamated wards being, I feel, rushed into our municipal plan. I wasn't able to attend any of the municipal plan open houses, but I do feel like, given that we're in the ebbing days of our council, that perhaps the municipal plan is something that we should be tabling or punting forward to the next council. I've said that a number of times, and I think this is another opportunity that maybe we should be considering that. I know staff's put a lot of time into it, but I do feel that a lot of residents don't feel that they've been engaged. They don't know. We had someone speak at our last meeting quite passionately with regard to the composition of council bylaw, and I do feel we're going to have more people like that. So I'm not sure the exact implications, but I do feel like this might be a good thing to a good time to put a motion forward to table the sending the draft to the next level. So I'll just put that out there, see how other councillors feel.
Just for staff, I mean, to clarify, basically sending it to the PAC, we're just simply asking PAC for their recommendations. We haven't gotten anywhere near first reading or anything like that yet, as far as I'm aware. I don't.
Correct, and in fact, we're having a meeting on November 10th,
Right.
where they're coming back with recommendations to change, based on their consultation we had in, I think, September, and they've sent that to council already on some of the recommendations. Then at your request, we're going to sit down and they're going to explain them and you can provide more input or a different direction or whatever you like on that?
Councillor Weir.
Yes, I agree that. I would agree that it's a bit premature to go to PAC. I don't think we have a definitive document yet, still in very draft form, and may be subject to very substantial changes. And I think if the PAC is going to give us an opinion or what they think of it and that type of thing, they should have something that's in reasonably close to a final document, or, that is certainly farther along than the document we have at this point in time. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Heenan.
Yes, Your Worship and Council. I, of course, am always the opposite of most, but I believe that the more input we have from any group, public, PAC, anything like that, is very vital to us making a decision and making it an informed one. So I would agree that the fact is that if it goes to PAC, their opinions would be very welcomed at this time and development of the plan. Thank you. Thank you, Worship.
Councillor Gumshaw.
Thank you, Councillor Neal. I don't disagree that the PAC input would be valuable, but we also discussed having a workshop on it, and I think maybe we should have that workshop at the very least, and then look at sending it to PAC to answer our own questions, as well as other input that's coming forward and continues to come forward, as I see online and different things. So I think we should at least have the workshop first, so then we would have something to send to PAC, to Councillor Weir's point. Thank you.
So I'll put the question back to staff then. As far as the timelines go, if we were to delay sending it to PAC until after our workshop on it with the planners, what are the implications for that?
Well, potentially slow things down a bit, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's at council's direction that this whole process moves along. They haven't formally looked at the, as a group, they've had the document, but they haven't formally discussed it among the PAC yet. If their meeting won't be until the third Wednesday, which would be the 21 plus 3, 24th, 19th. And so potentially have an amended version, depending on your meeting on the 10th. But it's whatever council wants to do. Either works.
Okay. Any other comments, council?
Point of order, Your Worship. Councillor Gumashall does have a motion to table on the floor, so we should go through that process.
Yep. Well, I was going to suggest, again, rather than defeating the motion, if we do want to go that route, then I think, tabling it would be the way to go, and then we can still move forward right after the planning meeting, correct?
Yep.
If that's the decision, yeah. Okay. So, Councillor Gumashall, that you did make that motion then to table?
Motion to table, yes.
Seconded by Councillor Weir. So any discussion on tabling this motion? Councillor Harland?
But if we're meeting with the planners on November the 10th, and PAC is November the 19th, we're not back together to make a motion to send it to PAC before then.
Correct, you'd have 30 days after, so it'd be our third, 14th, 17th would be our next meeting of council. So
it would delay the requesting the views of PAC until the 19th, until December.
Yes, But they could hold a special meeting just for that, because you're starting to get into Christmas week for the PAC. So they could hold a special meeting just to review that, provide views back to council.
Okay, I was just wondering if there was any way we could combine it. So instead of tabling it, we agree that we're going to workshop it with the planners and then send it to PAC. So that potentially that could get done on the 19th.
That's an option too. I guess it depends. So they have sent you recommendations, which you've seen. There's not a lot of change, like big changes they're making to the original document, some, but it's not a major change. So I guess the question is council planning on making major changes after the workshop? And I don't know the answer to that. Nor do you, I guess, until we go to the workshop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I hate to delay it, but I do have some significant questions, concerns that I raised in sessions with the planner about changing the designation of people's properties and things, and I do think if it was delayed, like if they could call a special meeting, then it wouldn't be a delay, but we should definitely go through this workshop process on the 10th, and we can make our decision then. Or we could pass it with some kind of a provision pending the, like, I don't know what'll happen at the workshop, but.
Well, sorry, Councillor. I guess at the end of the day, if you're not comfortable with the document before you send it to PAC, it's probably better to table this until we see what direction you're going, so everyone's playing on the same field, playing the same sport.
Okay. So we have the motion to table on the floor at the moment. As there's no more discussion, we'll call the vote there. All those in favor of tabling this motion? That's unanimous. Okay, so that is tabled. Okay, so the last one is, again, the 2026 budget discussion, which we'll throw over to CAO Spear.
Hi, Council. I don't want to belay this much, but I guess my plan is just to go section by section, talk about the changes like we did before, and just see if there's any further questions. I'm open to any way of doing this, but I've gone through it once kind of with the staff-led initiatives and changes, which there really wasn't a lot, more downs than ups in most cases, except for capital. So if you're okay, I'll just go through each department and maybe very briefly and ask council if there's anything you see within that.
Sure. If there's anything that jumps out at people, we can just flag it right then?
Yeah.
Okay.
So within your package, it would be page 17 of 62 I'm starting at, or page 4 of the budget. And so again, I'm not looking at specific tax rates yet. That will come this week. I'm going to do the analysis and forward it to you, at least initial thoughts, and then we'll go from there. But we still have to kind of get through the budget process to know what those rates would be. But again, right now, if anyone's got a phone near their microphone, can you move it? If right now this budget's just assuming that the mill rates of last year stayed the same, and we know the assessments were frozen for property owners unless they did changes and renovations to their homes. So under general government administrative services, like, you know, there was the animal control was moved under safety services. We reduced animal control, town hall repairs and maintenance went down. The only item that went up, two items that went up fairly significantly was the town office janitorial, just with the new washrooms being so heavily utilized, it's reflective of the actual cost. And then as discussed, under seminars and workshop council, we had a facilitator that helps set the strategic priorities of council, which we think is a valuable exercise. And so I bumped it up to accommodate that again at the start of the next council session, or the same council at a new session, whatever the case you want to look at. So the overall budget, proposed budget, went from $1,485,000 for 2025 to $1,402,000 for 2026. Is there any further questions on the administration department or concerns? Okay. Under general administration revenue, there really isn't very much there, except the community funding and equalization grants did increase by $5,000 to $90,000, which is for sure. I thought there might be an adjustment. I haven't heard yet, so there could still be a number come in before we bring this forward to council, but it won't be significant. And then all of the RSC things have actually gone down dramatically this year, their costs. And so the total expenses under that department is $176,000 from $206,000. I don't know for sure. I don't think the RSC budget has been formally approved yet, but I could be wrong about that. I haven't heard. And Deputy Mayor Akaji could have provided. So that, there's still a little room for that to change, but I wouldn't think it's significant. Is there any further questions on that? Okay. The trust funds are what they are. That's just based on the trust fund we get every year, set up by previous. Under economic development, so I've jumped over to page 21 of 62. Spelling error there. So the assistance grants, like I said, we rolled them all up into an amount of the top line of $56,000. That's more or less the same as last year. I just took out some of the very specific ones we gave. Is there any questions on that? Okay. Towards the bottom, the Economic Development Initiative. So I cut that significantly. We had a presentation where another organization would have used up last year's budget and offering to hire someone 3/4 full-time from the St. Andrews file. Like part of it was to hire a new employee. I'm not sure where council's direction is on that. That's one that I need. I could cut that lower, keep it, or bump it up higher. That's one that I need some point of direction from council. I don't need it tonight. We're not approving the budget right now, but it's just to start our way through this. Councillor Ware?
Yeah, I just going down through.
Your microphone, Councillor.
I'm sorry. Going down through the various expenditures here, and you know, the environmental committee grant, and mental wellness committee grant, that type of thing under economic development. I guess I look at economic development a little differently, in that it's business and jobs under the Municipality or Local Governance Act. They say it's anything that increases your assessment is economic development. But I guess I'm struggling with why some of these expenditures are in economic development.
I guess the best way to answer that is the economic development portfolio has been the one that council's had the most direction over for years. That kind of like town hall, fire department, public works has just been what they have been. We've asked for additional stuff sometimes, but it's, you know, you're talking councils haven't in the past been too concerned about, you know, fuel and insurance and that type of stuff. So this particular department, I agree with you, economic development may not be the right name, but this is the one that council has the most say on the things without significantly cutting services. So these are grants, initiatives in the community and things. I'd be happy to move them. I mean, maybe those two specifically could be moved to other departments, which is fine. It's just it kind of focuses councils in the past on this one department that was kind of their initiatives in the next year or so, their direct stuff. That wasn't services, on the ground services. These were events or support of other initiatives.
That's okay, Councillor Weir. Councillor Heenan?
Yes, Your Worship, I would just like to just have a little input on the economic development where you reduced it to 25. I think personally we should be prepared in case we do something in 2026 or the next council does something in 2026. I would be willing to see that bumped up to 50, simply because 25 is really not anything. I mean, you might as well have nothing there as 25. So I would like to see it at 50, not quite to the 70, but you don't know what the next council would do, and you also don't know what opportunity is going to come knocking on our door in 2026. Thank you, Your Worship.
So just to that point then, I guess, CAO Spear, is that something that, like if council decided to move with a third-party group for economic development services, how would we have, I guess, funded that moving forward if we just leave that at 25K?
Unknown, I mean, again, the budget is recommendations and a planning
Yeah.
tool. You could have told me, you know, if we'd kept it at 25 and you went with the proposal from the new group in February, we could have, you know, you would have asked me, how are you going to fund this? We do have reserves, operating
Yeah.
reserves too, that we could have used, or I would have looked in the budget and see where we might have had to cut something else in order to fund it.
Right.
It's a good, I mean, if council think that's a great recommendation, and it, you know, whether we start it, even if you think it is so much as the next council wants to deal with it, that you might not get going with it until the summer, for instance, then it gives them, you know, at least a half a year's money to work with it. So I guess I'd just ask Councillor Neal that maybe, I know this is it's a little more informal, but maybe just by show of hands or something, whether people agree with Councillor Heenan's suggestion to double that up to $50,000.
I think Councillor Gumashall maybe had a comment there first.
Yes, I had a couple comments, but I would agree that I think we should keep it at the same level, and then when we're really sharpening our pencils at the very end, then we can decide. Because could you clarify for me, Mr. CAO, how many years have we had 70K as a placeholder for economic development? It's been two or three.
At least 3, yeah.
So for 3 years, we've had that in there, and we haven't spent it. And roughly, how, I know we do economic development, but how much would we have spent, just as a, off the top of your head?
Well, it's a hard question.
It's a
'cause
hard-
it would have been-
so it's not
it would have
fair-
been
it's not a fair
It would have been
question?
staff time, right, in meetings for different things,
Sure.
as opposed to actually financial dollars going out of the town.
So, fast forward, I think we should keep it at 70 for now, to Councillor Heenan's point, and we can make that decision later. I think there's some discussions we could have in terms of how we want to leave things, and the presentation we had. I think we should really look at that and keep it at 70, would be my recommendation. So that'd be, I raise my hand for that.
Informally, who is comfortable with leaving that placeholder in there at 70K? So I think we have direction there.
Yep.
Okay.
This also gives staff a direction, like Chris kind of felt out in left field on this one. So I feel that us holding this as a placeholder gives it some anchorage. Thank
Yeah,
you.
I guess we'd still have to have the discussion over the third-party group, but.
Yeah, but it's there, and
Yep.
we'll have a discussion later, but besides the third-party group, there's also other kind of one-of type projects
Right.
we can do, looking at identifying strategic priorities, or, anyway, it's a bigger conversation to have.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, council. Jumping to page 23 of 62, I apologize for the blanks, that fixed up eventually. There's really nothing under fiscal services that, the only thing I'll say is the budget for debt payment is going down for a couple of years, because earlier years, in 2025, we thought we'd have a dam built, or not a dam, sorry, the wharf underway, so that's under there. Part of the thing is, in this budget, I have added, I think it was 26 and 27, no, 27, I put in money for the Shamcook Dam, just as a placeholder to make council aware, and that's why the budgets in 28 and 29 go up so high. But that's not really concerned in the immediate future, it's just a show, and we can, in the capital, we can talk about that a bit.
Okay.
The accommodation levy isn't in and out, so we can kind of skip that. The Wellness Center, we've had some discussions on putting together or finalizing some leases and stuff, but I think we're still sitting at the communication seems to be the only thing that I see that could go up. Let's go from there. Policing. So we heard earlier tonight Staff Sergeant Peters say that they're at full detachment here, which is great, which it is. But talking to the accountants in Fredericton, just the way they do things, we're not going to be charged for a full complement next year. So I took off a 0.75 of a person.
Yep.
We're meeting with them 3 weeks, I think. That we're, like, we have annual or biannual meeting of all the contract holders, and they're going to give us what they think our numbers are more tightly. All they said to me is, you won't be charged for full. For instance, I think the young fellow that was here tonight, the cadet, probably isn't part of that formula till he's received his full designation, whatever the term is. So that's been reduced from your last version of the budget. So the Safety Services Fire Department overall has gone up about $10,000. Most of that was up for the equipment repairs went up. There's some more certification has to go in some of the equipment you're using there. So that's primarily the increase there. Is there any questions into the fire department? Other protective services is animal control, which we talked about earlier, bylaw enforcement. There was a question. I just want to confirm that you'd want to continue with the subcontracted bylaw enforcement moving forward. So we had it this year. That was a young fella, Marshall. What was his last name?
Yeah.
Yeah. Curtis. Forget his name. Mr. Marshall.
Council's feeling on that? Everybody's okay?
Okay.
All right.
Environmental development is garbage and recycling. We're following the numbers there. Like I said before, the solid waste collection looks like it took a fairly big increase, but when we put the budget together last year, we hadn't put together the contract yet. And it was a guess on my part, and it went up, the contracts were higher than I'd hoped. The only change that'll move forward is under the leaf composting supplies. So we've moved to those brown bags now. We actually, you have to buy those by the tractor trailer load now. You can't buy them just, we were buying like a half a pallet. So we're just referring people to the local businesses. We weren't subsidizing those anyway. We didn't want to compete against, the retailers that had those. So we were selling them for the same per unit cost anyway.
Right.
But that can come out of that calculation on the next version. Public Works, their big request is the salt budget took quite a hit this year, and we're probably going to be over budget. We had decreased it for 2025. They're asking to increase it to 80,000. 70 to 80, but it had been, I think, had been higher than that, I think, in 2024. I'll have to go back and look, but in the back of my mind, I think we reduced it because in the prior years, and like a year ago, when we were talking about 2025, the history had been that it was less, but between extra costs and these weird freeze-thaw cycles we have now.
Mild winters we're having?
Yeah, mild winters, but still eating the salt budget up.
Yeah.
It's, they're recommending that we take it up to there.
Okay.
And so that budget has gone from, up about $40,000, mostly to inflation, except for the salt, from $1,088,000 to $1,120,000. The next is our cultural services. A blockhouse is in and out that's paid for by Parks Canada, including our extra costs, like for mowing and stuff's also included, so they cover more than just the two people that run the blockhouse. They cover for Public Works to go over there and maintain the facility and stuff too. In the courthouse, I know council had approved, and this is for people here, council had approved that it be transferred eventually over to the Civic Trust at some point. I've just left it here as a placeholder. I suspect they're putting together some information, but there'll probably be a grant request. I don't know what level it is, but I suspect that's forthcoming. They are supposed to meet with us in November, so I have to solidify a date on that, what their next level of, or what their next steps are. The Ross Memorial Library, what was the big decrease there? You sure can. Sorry,
Yeah.
if I'm going too fast, slow me down.
The courthouse, I notice, I'm just saying, like, we do have the property taxes as an expense, and we run that all the way through to 2029. If it's turned over to Civic Trust, do we not, we don't have to pay property taxes on that?
It just hasn't been completed yet, is that
Yeah,
correct?
that's correct. And so I guess the way to look at it, Councillor Heenan, is we've got around $30,000 a year for that facility on our budget, 32. They'll probably come back. I don't think it'll go to zero, the cost. That the Civic Trust will look for at least a start-off grant before they get all their ducks in a row and can get for funding, is what I'm assuming. So I've just left that as the assumption. There's nothing in there for Civic Trust for taking it over. I don't know at this point where it's going. It could be a savings, but that's the assumption at this point in time. Councillor Ware?
Yes, I agree completely. They will be looking for money, and could very well be as much as we're currently spending. So we've got to leave it in there as at least as placeholder, and hope we get to the point that the time we approve the budget, we have a little better understanding of what they will want.
Yep. The Ross Memorial Library, the big thing I took out of that, but I think I'm going to have to add it back, is the wages and benefits. So their permanent staff is paid for by the province of New Brunswick, but their summer students, they kind of have to do off grants, and the grants really aren't sufficient to keep them the whole summer. So they requested $3,000 or $4,000 from us just to kind of top that up. So they have 2 students to run the children's programming all summer. So I originally taken that out, just considering the full-time staff, but I'll probably add $3,000 back in the budget for their summer programming. It's a lot less, that's only a portion of it, but it's just, that's what they needed to run it for the whole summer this year. The Ross Memorial Museum, was a big decrease in expenses, primarily because of repairs and maintenance, kind of a one-off type of job we did over this past year. So their budget went from $119,000 to $107,000. One thing, just to bring it to your attention, I think it's a great idea, but 2 or 3 years ago, we stopped running the Christmas open house, and we stopped all operations at Thanksgiving. But because it was the 200th anniversary, I think, last year, we started the Christmas open house again, and so that's assumed in this budget. It requires a staff member for an additional 6 weeks to get in, clean up, put stuff away and things.
Okay.
It's too late for this year. It was approved for 2025, and they're in the process of getting it together.
Right.
But I just want to bring it to your attention. It seems to be well received. It's mostly run by volunteers. We just have 1 staff member. We have 2 during the summer, and 1 helps clean up and then takes a layoff, and the other 1 comes back to run the Christmas open house and prepare the facility and run the tours for it. Whoop. Sheriff Andrews' house. Sheriff Andrews' house, councils have agreed in the past to run a bit of a deficit on that, so we are giving an operating fee, but it's only for a few weeks, and especially with the bus tours. So, sorry, taking a step back. The province, when they give us the grant, it goes from basically Victoria Day up until the long weekend in September, Labor Day. And so councils have agreed in the past few years to extend it to Thanksgiving. A couple of reasons is we're trying to increase our shoulder season. It's good to have that money there, or to have that facility open. We're getting more, as the cruise business in St. John improves, we're getting buses. I think I saw one day there's 5 buses in town here, people that drop people off, and so it gives them. But from a employer perspective, it's kind of tough to get people to work only 10 or 12 weeks. We try to extend it as much as we can so they can, are eligible for EI if nothing else. But it's just finding seasonal employees. You need, because it's run longer, we need some adult staff there. So we have 2 adult staff plus 1 summer student. And so that's why, and like I said, past councils have been okay to run the deficit. But we had a discussion with the minister, and they're running a consultant's doing a study trying to see how to make tourism, heritage, and culture more economically sustainable, I guess. Because if you remember, I think it was McDonald Farms closed for the season. And of course, our partners at Minister's Island had some issues that they were running through earlier in the fall. So they're looking at that. So they're happy that the council has done this and is working towards this model. And I said if we could get a little more, it would be fantastic, but we'll see how that goes. But
It's a pretty small deficit in the grand scheme of things there. Again,
yeah,
the provincial grants covering a little over 70% of the operating costs, so.
yeah. And Bayside Hall, the only real big thing we changed there is the revenue side, is we've got 2 or 3, well, there's only 1 day a week it's not being used at night, so we have line dancing and gymnastics and some other things going for most of the year. So that's good. There's actually one item that, it's gotten so busy, like they've had volunteers and people that have been cleaning it, but it's not keeping up, so we may have to add a little bit of janitorial to that. I think just 1 or 2 hours a week just to tidy some things up. Users are supposed to get it near, but it's just, they can only bring floors so close when you have that much traffic that will require people. So I'll probably add a janitor line just for $2,000 or $3,000. But we have offsetting revenue on that.
Yep. Okay, that'd be worthwhile.
Can I interject?
Sure.
Quick.
Councilor Grooms.
With all of the different janitorial lines we have in all our different budgets, would it be worthwhile considering having a janitor on staff, like with a little janitor truck, and goes from town hall to the park to the Harry Mallory to the exercise park to the other bathrooms all over town, and not just that, but also cigarette butts, and like have our own janitor, a little janitor truck and a little white suit with a white hat.
Well, just before, Councillor Heenan, before you jump into that, it's something, because we have a contract, we probably shouldn't be talking about it in open session.
Apologies.
But, yeah, but it's also, we did have a discussion in open session. It's tough because it's a 7-day-a-week job.
Right.
For 6 months a year, and that's hard. We'd have to hire a person and a half or 2 people. So that's what we're running into. The staff is aware of it and keeps an eye on it, for sure. But we've had a discussion with council earlier this year about that, about the struggles.
Okay. Councilor Heenan, did you?
That's exactly what I was going to say. We had that exercise, and we did run the numbers, and it was not conducive. So, thank you.
But if all of council volunteered 1 day a week to clean, no? No motion? Okay, I'll keep moving. Parks and recreation facilities are mostly our parks. No real change there. Recreation and programs is fairly big change this year. That Merv has done a tremendous job, but I'd given you a report of some of the extra stuff you'd like to do this year. One of the big ones was, because of the success of Bayside Hall, to create some more programming out there that's free to the community, kind of similar to the seniors events at SIAC, except it'd be out there. But there was other things built in there as well, so that his other events went from 20,000 to 33, would be the biggest item there. The budget itself didn't go up tremendously because of the consultant was built into last year's, which is almost completed this year. So year over year, it didn't look too bad, but it's a significant increase. The wages as well, just so you understand, some of that's built into our day camp cost, which we hadn't planned on as well last year, so there's no employee additions or anything except for the day camp, which mostly pays for itself. It does run a small deficit for the full day camps we've been running out of the arena for the last 2 years. Is there any questions or discussions on this budget for the recreation and programs?
Councillor Harlan.
I think it's been a tremendous area of growth for us as a municipality. We talk a lot about wanting to increase our capacity for families, and this is what draws families to a community, is having robust recreation programs available. And it's not just for younger children, it's for the seniors as well, who are a steady stream going up to the youth center in the mornings. So I think this is an increase in expenditure well spent.
Councillor Weir.
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. Mervin's done a great job out at the hall, Bayside. He sends us an email the first of the month and tells us the days he can't open and close. We have a wonderful committee. They put me at the bottom of the list for opening and closing, so I don't have to do it that often, but they are very energetic, and if he wants to increase the use of the facility, I know he's got a committee behind him that'll work very hard on it.
Thank you,
Great.
Councillor.
Thank you.
The W.C. O'Neill Arena Complex, the budget actually just goes up minusculely. I don't know, did council see my email at the end of the day about the arena floor too? So, yeah, so the arena floor is just going to be a minor repair at the end of the day now.
That is
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah, it is huge. But having said that, I think we've got to investigate what the future holds for that, because it's just the start of, it's still a 60-year-old floor. So is there any specific questions on the arena? The wharf, the only noticeable thing on the wharf is the insurance, the revenue's gone down. We talked about that before. It reflects reality. Or the only thing council can do to offset that, this isn't a suggestion, but is we may want to do over the winter review of the wharf fees again. That, we've set them at a particular rate, and maybe we want to visit that. We've been increasing them by inflation for the last couple of years, but it's probably been 5 or 6 years, possibly before the pandemic, when we had a wholesale review of them. Under the wharf expenses, the only real big item, and I think I explained it in my note, was the wharf insurance is going up just because of our insurance is replacement cost. And when we saw the value of a refurbishment, we realized the value of replacing the whole wharf, if whatever, a tsunami came and moved it down the river, that was going to be probably a $20 million plus project to replace that from one end to the other. And so our policy has a co-insurance clause in it, our current policy, so meaning, like if we had it insured for $10 million and it was $20 million value, that they'd only pay 50% of the cost of the repairs if they considered we have it underinsured. So as part of my due diligence as treasurer, I'll have to report that it's a much higher replacement value than currently there.
The other thing we have to remember on the wharf is insurance premiums run in a cycle, and they go up and then they get down about 40% over 3 years, then they start up again. And it's just the way the industry is based on world markets. Lloyd's of London are usually behind the policies, so it's not like we're New Brunswick or Canada even. It's the whole world that's affecting the premium.
Is there any further questions on the wharf? Any adjustments? Question?
I think so.
In the youth center, the only big item, it did take a big jump, but primarily because of, we talked about the adjustment for wages, which we should go to closed session, but I've explained that to council previously and even before we rehired in the summer. Okay.
Other than that, everything's pretty much
Everything's
inflationary,
about
right?
the same.
Yep.
And they're good about getting money. We get a lot of donations for materials and things, and a lot of community partners help us out too in that programming. So it's, you know, it's always been a strong program at nights, and with the seniors there through the day, it's made it twice as valuable or more to the community. And that's the Operations Council. I don't know if you want to start into capital, or you want to get home and go see the ball, or want to go home and see the Blue Jays score 10 runs in the first 2 innings. So is that good, council? We'll pick up the capital next we meet.
I don't think I even have to ask.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for that, Mr. Spear. Okay, so there is no new business, correct? Which takes us to question period. So I'll start with the gallery. Is there anybody in our audience that would like to ask a question? Mr. Mowat? Just come up to the podium there and say your name, where you live, please.
We're good. Hi, gang. My name is Pat Mowat, long-term resident of the area in Bayside, former member around this table, and I realized that this is not a forum for the airing of grievances, so I'm not here to do that. I would like to thank the council for making a decision that it did tonight, and that was to table the presentation to the PAC of MP 25. Would you give me 5 minutes to tell you why?
Go ahead, yes.
Okay. I do have to read this because I don't ad-lib well. I had to do this after work. I realized that objections were asked for some time ago. But I'm just going to read this off. I had time to write it after work. This is why. Thank you for tabling that motion. It's been an observation for the last decade or so that meetings of this sort are generally preceded by acknowledgements. In this case, that the meeting is taking place on the unceded territory of the Pescataway. Sorry for my pronunciation of that. I think it's important to occasionally reflect on the wrongs that have been done in the past and in whatever ways possible to mitigate the damages caused by not fully thinking things through when committing to decisions that made in haste for whatever motivations. The history of such things is abundantly clear: annexation and disenfranchisement. I served on this council a couple of decades ago when I was a resident of the town, after I built my place in Bayside on a property that has been in my family for many generations. I served on the Local Service District Committee, LSDC, of Bayside for several terms, 5 or 6 if memory serves, some of it with Daryl. As an LSDC was comprised of a group of elected community members whose role, for which we received no compensation, was to review the annual budget and to provide advice to the Minister of Environment and Local Government at his or her request. At the time, the outlying community of Bayside had a budget administered by normal property tax assessment, with the services of policing, fire protection, and waste disposal being paid for through those assessments. It is relevant to note that during my entire tenure on the committee, that is 5 or 6 terms, say roughly around 25 years, Not once did the Minister of Environment and Local Government ever request the advice of this committee. So we've been kept pretty close to the sidelines in both Shamcook and Bayside all through that time without a whole lot of say in what's going on. Then along comes 2023, when that same office, that is Environment and Local Government, declared that the communities of Bayside and Shamcook were going to be amalgamated into the town of St. Andrews. And amalgamation is another term for annexation. And for those being annexed, it is an ugly word. Today, we apologize for and acknowledge annexations that took place centuries ago, and here we are. Nobody in Bayside wanted or asked for this. As one of my last official acts on the Bayside LSDC, my group conducted a poll of Bayside residents, and 95% of those polled indicated that they were opposed to amalgamation. This work was not requested by the minister, but nonetheless, the Bayside LSDC held the conviction that the minister needed to hear from the community whether he was interested in it or not. It turned out that the minister had no interest in what the community wanted at all, since amalgamation went forward full steam ahead, apparently without any consideration for the wishes of the communities affected. And when it happened, public meetings and information sessions were held to keep the public informed on what shape the newer enlarged municipalities would take. At the time, the residents of Shamcook and Bayside were assured that the transition would take place with as minimal interference, in quotes, with existing rural plans as possible. Bayside has had an existing rural plan since 1986, that's 40 years. And in August and September, the town of St. Andrews of this year, the town of St. Andrews had open houses to introduce the proposed municipal plan, MP25, to the general public. This plan contains a number of zoning proposals for the wards of Bayside and Shamcook, as well as a number of stated goals for the municipal plan. There are proposed provisions in this document which cannot fail to negatively affect landowners in these communities. There are zoning, here's an example, there are zoning provisions which designate large tracts of land within the designated watershed as prime soil, which are to be restricted to development on the grounds of maintaining their viability for agriculture, despite the existing regulations under the watershed designation order which prohibit agriculture. And that tells me people haven't been really thinking this through, whoever's prepared this planning document. This is only one example. In addition to everything stated above, it's important to note that if this proposed municipal plan goes forward, it will do so without any meaningful representation from Bayside or Shamcook, since those residents will be permitted only to vote for one councillor. This is something that could and most certainly should have been corrected prior to the upcoming election in May. This means that these communities will be marginalized and without true representation for at least 4.5 years. As such, please consider this my objection in the strongest possible terms to MP25. And here's a gold-plated chance for this council to do the right thing, so maybe successor councils in the future can avoid the awkward acknowledgements that they will have to make for hasty decisions made in the past. What's the right thing? And that's to move to table this draft until all the residents of an amalgamated community can vote on issues that will affect them, and move to adopt the existing rural planning statements for Bayside and Shamcook with minimal, if any, changes at all. That's until at least Bayside and Shamcook can vote for all 6 councillors. Thanks a lot for your time. I'm leaving a hard copy here. I sent one to the clerk today. Questions?
Oh, sorry. Thank you for that. I was going to ask if you felt comfortable in leaving us with a copy of
Absolutely.
your statement. I would appreciate that.
Yep.
And so you identified one of the objections as being the rezoning or the designations of the lands. Are there other examples?
I've only gone through what affects my particular plot. I've got 85 acres. 20% of it was zoned, or proposed to be zoned rural reserve. That is not well defined. And the remainder, including a lot of it in zone, like I'm gonna say about probably 30 acres or 40 acres in zone B of the designated watershed, where agriculture is prohibited. Whoever made this plan either doesn't know about the watershed designation order, or the right hand's not talking to the left. It's poorly laid out. And if I could ask council a question, there is a statement in that municipal plan, I can't remember the subsection, it is council shall restrict motorized watercraft in Katie's Cove and Shamcook Lake.
Right.
Is council aware that there are already boating restrictions on Shamcook Lake?
Yes.
So is this a further restriction?
I don't believe so, no. I believe it's just maintaining.
Okay, so
The existing.
so if it's no extension of what's already there, why is it there? Because it's already covered under the watershed designation order.
Because the watershed designation order is put on by the province, not by council, so it's just to show their agreement to that statement.
But if it's already exists in provincial regulation, then why does it have to be spelled out further? That's my question to you. And I'm sure if I had time to dig through that further, I would find other zoning provisions proposed. There were questions at the first open house from people who have, for example, chickens or a couple of horses, and their land was not zoned agriculture. Does that mean they got to get rid of their livestock? Had anybody really gone out and talked to the residents in Bayside and Shamcook? Thanks for taking it off the table for the PAC, and I really hope council will consider tabling it for another, at least until the following election after this one that happens in May. That's 4 more years, because people in Shamcook and Bayside have no voice.
So,
Go ahead.
Mr. Spear, we're under a timeline, are we not, in terms of when we need to get a municipal plan
Well, it's like
And
next
for the
5,
amalgamated-
within the 5 years.
from 5 years from when we first amalgamated?
28,
2028.
yeah.
That's when our new municipal plans.
And
Well-
when will the following election be?
So the way the municipal plans work, I mean, councils could amend them every 2 years if they wanted. Not
Okay.
recommended because it's such a
So-
big work, but they wanted to consolidate because council, even a lot of your residents, so I'll go back to the lobster holding facility, and I know there's a lot of discussion whether it was misinterpreted or not, but at the end of the day, there's some benefit to having some types of regulations out there, so there's compatible stuff beside there. So, for instance,
I
you don't
agree with you. I
want a
agree.
pulp mill near Shamcook Lake, for instance,
100%.
which wouldn't be allowed now. I mean, that's just a
Right.
complete
It's an
exaggeration,
example.
but it's the type of thing. And so,
But instead of putting in bad zoning, I think it would be better to actually wait until you can put in good zoning, if zoning is required.
but there's 2 things, I guess. A, we're still going through the municipal plan process, right? So we just have a really early draft. We haven't seen the recommendations, and council may support your type of concerns and amend it. We haven't looked at zoning yet. The zoning bylaw is under draft, but council hasn't seen it. I saw an early draft like 6 months ago, but I know it's been changed since then with all these discussions that we've had. So I'm not sure what council will want to do, but they are 2 different things, that the municipal plan just very high level, and then a lot of residents, you've got more experience at council, so, you understand stuff better, but a lot of them are more interested in the zoning document, so they can see, for my parcel of property, what does this actually mean, where the high-level municipal plan doesn't quite get down to the detail that a lot of people want. So once they get the municipal plan kind of back in a phase that the council likes, then the zoning bylaw will be completed, and then there'll be more consultation sessions, public consultation sessions for people to give further input, like at the 3 locations like we did before.
Okay?
So I really
Definitely.
appreciate you bringing forward your concerns. And these are not new concerns. I have certainly been approached by many residents who have expressed very similar concerns. I remain hopeful that we may be able to create a municipal plan that does address them. That allows us to move forward to a truly amalgamated vision of what St. Andrews looks like. And I really look forward to a time when all residents get to vote for all of council.
Thank you for that.
Thanks.
I'll leave the hard copy with Chris. Do you want me to sign that, or I did send one to Chris as well? Yeah, I just put.
So, just waiting to get Max. All right.
Thanks, council. I'd hate to take.
Thank you,
my
Mr.
time.
Mowat.
Yes, thank you.
Is there any questions online?
You might need that.
No questions online? Okay, so councilors' comments? Any councilor have a comment? Other than hurry it up. Go Jays, go.
Hold on a second, we're gonna give Miss, or Darlene Smith Ferguson, if you have an interest in addressing council, can you raise your hand? If there's anyone online that would like to address council in the question period, can you raise your hand? Okay, we're good now.
Okay, so if there's no councilor comments, I don't have any further comments at this moment, so I'll look for a motion to adjourn. Councilor Heenan and Councilor Gumichel, all in favor? Aye. Aye, so we are adjourned at 8:59. Thank you very much, everyone.